Hey everybody, this is Nate Smoyer, and you're listening to the Tech Nest Podcast. This is the show where we sit down with the leaders in real estate and technology to find out what they're doing to transform the way we buy, sell, and invest in real estate. If you've got an interest in real estate and technology, stick around. You're in the right place.
All right, we got a great show for you today. We have Matt Kohrs. He's a director at CREXi. You guys know who CREXi is. They're one of the biggest marketplaces in commercial real estate. And we talk through a lot about their business, the future commercial real estate, something that's a little bit newer for CREXi. They're getting into the auction game. And this is, not intentional, but the timing of it couldn't be better. We're facing a lot of financial uncertainty and a lot of uncertainty around the commercial market, what may happen. And, some businesses might shutter. There might be some tough times ahead of us, and auctions actually could take off because of that. We talked through that, and, this is probably one of the most fun episodes. And I probably say that every time, but really, I was, excited to have Matt on the show. I've been I use CREXi all the time when I can't sleep. That's one of my go-to content sites. Instead of just flipping Facebook, I go to CREXi, looking at properties. And this is also Matt's first podcast. So anyway, we had a lot of fun talking about the details here. And we don't talk to many marketplaces here. Matt's one of the founding members or employees. He was one of the first employees at CREXi. So he's got a lot to say. So I think you'll enjoy it. Well, hey, Matt, welcome to the show.
Nate, thanks for having us. Myself and the whole CREXi family want to say thank you. We're excited.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're here. First, congratulations to you for doing your very first podcast ever. I'm pumped. Before the show, I'm gonna put you out there. I hope you don't mind. Matt says he's a little bit nervous. I said, well, I've got an Irish coffee here, and I held up my Wisconsin dairy themed Starbucks mug, and Matt went and grabbed the beer because on this show we don't have to. There are no rules. No parents, no rules. So anyway, glad you're here. Hey, go ahead.
It's Friday.
And it's Friday. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Let everyone know who you are and what you do.
Yeah, thanks a lot again, Nate. So I'm Matt Kohrs, the regional director for the Western U.S. sales team at CREXi. So myself and a team of 10 are working day in, day out in the brokerage community that we service. And I've been with the company since before we launched, so now, which is pretty crazy to think about because time has definitely flown by since we've launched it.
Yeah, well, I mean, 5 years even in CRETech right now, like just looking back a few years and where we're at now, I mean, a lot has changed in the scene. And obviously today, I mean, I'm not trying to date the episode too much, but even commercial real estate, man. It's a minefield right now, but let's break it down for the people who aren't familiar. What is the single biggest problem or the main problem that CREXi is looking to solve?
Yeah, good question. That's probably if I go back, 5 years ago, a little over 5 years ago, our CEO Mike DeGiorgio called me one day and he's like, hey, I'm going to start this thing and I think you should come and join and we're going to change the industry. And I thought, that's pretty wild. I went back to my job. I was in the commercial real estate industry at the time, and I started looking at the legacy softwares that we were using, the systems, some of them, 10, 20, 30 years old at times. Mm-hmm. And I just thought there's got to be a different way to transact. And that's really been since day one we've been doing. Trying to help move the industry forward from a transaction standpoint. So whether you're, buying, leasing, selling, or even from the data side of things, we've got a sales comparables tool out there as well. Just trying to bring everything under one roof and help our mantra since day one has been CRE made easy, community marketplace technology. And that's really been what our goal has been since day one.
You think if Mike would have told you how hard it was to build a marketplace, you would have joined?
That's a good question. And it's crazy too, thinking back on the 5 years ago, because when we launched, we were in a house in the Venice Canals. So it's a true, kind of startup story from that angle.
All right.
Had no idea at all. And I we're climbing mountains every day, I feel like, even with what we're doing, because when I look at how far we've gone, there's still a whole lot more we still have to do. But yeah, I don't know if I would have, but I'm so glad I did.
Yeah, because I mean, really, there's no way. I think there's any way of short selling it. Building a marketplace is so hard. You have to get both sides to really, one side has to have the value for the other side, but in order for that one side to grow in value, the other side has to be there. I mean, you're constantly trying to ladder your way up. So, I'm glad we've got someone from the beginning. So maybe we can get some war stories in here. You joined Mike early on at the company, you're regional sales director, but kind of walk me through, what's the day-to-day look like for you?
Yeah. So today, my team in particular, but it's, we're doing the same thing across the country. We're working with the largest brokers, whether you're CBRE, JLL, or Cushman & Wakefield on a national basis, down to the local and regional level, and really just educating them about what we offer. So the platform itself, really kind of what it's been since day one, is an open marketplace. So what I mean by that is, as long as you're a listing broker or listing agent, you can post your properties for sale or for lease on Craxi, and anybody can come and search our marketplace. So there's no paywall, there's no barrier to entry for any stakeholder in the commercial real estate game. And that's been an issue, since I've seen it for the past 8+ years now that I've been in there. You either have to pay to post, pay to search, or pay for both. And so that's really been like one of the key drivers for us, is the education piece. So that's kind of like day in, day out, is making sure brokers are familiar with how it works, and then what other tools we offer. So now more than ever, everything is going digital and virtual, especially with what's happening nowadays, as we're both talking in our apartments. So, the fact that you can post your listing, post your high-res photos, post your videos, post anything you want, down to like due diligence files and things like that on Craxi, and truly have a full transaction happen online for the most part, is what we're educating people on day in, day out. And I feel like it's needed, now more so than ever, just because that's kind of the natural progression with everything, but especially nowadays.
See, this is one of the reasons I like commercial, because you guys are just like, hey, we're going to be an open marketplace. Anybody post your stuff here. Yeah. It doesn't have to be from, I just like the commercial market in general. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who's a commercial broker out of Nashville yesterday, Tyler Cobble. And I said to him, I was like kind of jealous sometimes that you're in the commercial space, because I love the residential space, but I really want to someday, and it'll probably happen when I'm older and I learn some things, I'll go into the commercial space. But I'm just like, I kind of want to get into that, because like all the numbers are bigger. You get to add like 2 commas to everything, and you get, contracts in purchase and sale agreements. There's like 5 standard pages, and then everything else is whatever you write in them. And it doesn't work that way in residential. There's like all these rules and forms you have to fill out. And anyway, so I think it's kind of cool. I've actually used the website quite a few times. I have a terrible habit of shopping real estate when I can't sleep. I'm on the site now. Is the auction thing new? That seems rather new to me. Having auction listings.
The auction thing, it's probably, coming up on a year old, which is another crazy thing to say, because it seems like yesterday we launched that. But we've hosted, honestly, a number of auction events now. Probably close to 250 million, I would say, is transacted on the auction platform since we launched it.
Straight off the site.
And it's all through Craxi transacted. Start to finish, from market
so if I want
to list, market, and close.
I'm looking at a holistic brain health village. That's what it's described as, in Waller, Texas right now. Auction. It's got all kinds of uses. I like it because it's a big building, self-storage kind of stuff. That's my jam. Okay.
Yeah.
Starting bid, $300,000. Okay, cool. I can get it. I can get down with this. May 12th, the bidding starts. Do I have to go in that day? And like, am I live bidding like eBay, or is it kind of 2-week silent bid time? How's it work?
Yeah. So how the whole logistics on that works is the event, if you will, it's going to be marketed for some 30, 60, 90 days. I think usually about 75 we do. Okay. And the bidding window itself is typically a 24 to 48 hour window. Cool. So it's basically an eBay thing, like you're saying. The only difference is you're going to have to show proof of funds and entity information and things along those lines. Once you're approved to bid, you're in there and place. Yeah, it's just like eBay. You'll see current bid, if you're high bid or if you're not, what the next bid increment is, and
Yeah.
it's pretty exciting.
Is this a pay to list product, or is there a commission back to Craxi based on the price that you get to sell it at?
Yeah, so there's a commission to Craxi. It's a buyer's premium that's paid on the back end.
Got it.
So no cost to list on there, but when the property does transact, there'll be a fee on top of the.
Okay, so like a
price
finder's
or the
fee,
purchase
essentially.
price. Exact. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I see. Okay. So, I mean, it's a huge advantage then for someone who has a property that maybe doesn't fit the normal conform, and they've just got to find a way to get it out there and get it off their hands.
Yeah, and I think with what we're seeing in the economy in general right now, it could turn into a big marketplace for us down the road.
Yeah. I mean, do you have a lot of office space at the moment? Because you might.
Yeah, I mean that hotels and yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens for sure.
Yeah. So, okay, you said you've done about 250 million in auction transactions, and that's in total, like total purchase volume right there. And then how many total listings are you guys taking annually, or are you putting up on the site? Like, what kind of inventory can someone expect on the Craxi marketplace?
Yeah, so probably the coolest thing about Craxi is the transparency of it all. So literally, if you just go to the site and click on for sale or for lease, you can see how many listings we've got on either. It'll say in the top left corner, but we've got over 100,000 for sale properties.
Wow.
Over 200,000 for lease properties, all active on the platform today. We're adding, thousands of properties a week on here on both sides of the marketplace, the for sale and the for lease side.
Wow. And what's the biggest source of growth
active
there? How are you finding those deals? Or is it all the brokers have just learned over time that Craxi is a good place to put their properties, and that's how that you guys end up winning those listings?
You'd be surprised. It's really like market specific and locally, regionally kind of things. But for the most part, we're national. So everywhere across the country, we've got properties. But there's still some folks that just have not put their listings up yet. So either they haven't heard of us or they just haven't posted on here yet. So we've got a team that's actually day in, day out working in that across the whole country, trying to contact the brokers if they haven't heard about us or if they don't have their listings up on the site yet, I should say.
Right.
They'll be getting called from our team and just, again, back to the education piece. Are you familiar with us? It's free to have your inventory on here. And really from the angle of the back end of the system, you can track a lot of different things from a data side.
Yeah. So if I can get the saying right, in residential real estate, we used to say there's 3 P's in selling a property for some agents. Are you familiar with them?
I've heard this before, but I don't know it off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I know I've definitely heard this before.
Number 1, you put the sign in the yard.
Okay.
Number 2, you put it on the MLS. And number 3, you pray. And let's just hope that someone comes along and buys that thing, right? So just listing your property obviously doesn't do anything. Just putting it on a website doesn't do anything. What does Craxi do to actually get it in front of the buyers? Because it's one thing for you to get the listing and be in touch with the brokers, but how are you getting this in front of buyers?
Yeah, so a big thing that we noticed on a lot of different legacy sites out there is that it's more or less a listing billboard, right? It's like putting a sign up there, but what kind of traffic are you getting? You don't know. So the big thing on our site is when you put it up here, first and foremost, we've got a very active database. There's millions of people coming to Craxi on a monthly basis, and that's going to be through just a database that we've built, and then just from different types of marketing avenues, from different SEO, SEM, and fancy way of saying paying Google, Bing, Yahoo to get out there. But a big thing is the people that we have on our site are continuing to come back. And like you said, with that marketplace effect, right? It's hard to get it started, but once it does get started, people are coming back day in, day out to search for their needs. So one of the coolest things that I think about this all, which really kind of just, keeps me up at night when I'm thinking about how other industries do things, is you think about Amazon or Facebook, right? And you go shopping, whether you're going skiing this weekend or something like that. And now I'm like clicking on helmets and skis and whatever it may be.
Right.
And it starts monitoring my patterns of what I'm searching for.
Yeah.
So Craxi's doing the same thing. It's predictive analysis and machine learning. But it's really just trying to bring those, whether it's a buyer, a broker, a tenant, looking for space to lease or properties to buy, investments to buy.
Yeah.
It's monitoring your activity day in, day out, and trying to put listings that it thinks you're going to like in front of you, so you want to come back to the site. That's a really big part of it all, is because once people start coming back to the site, they start clicking on what they want to see. It tracks everything that's happening.
Yep.
And for the listing brokers on the back end of the system, everything's tracked in an easy to use data repository, for lack of a better term, but we call it a dashboard.
Uh-huh.
And the listing brokers on it get full visibility into who's clicking on it. Kind of like in residential, everyone who walks by the property, you're going to actually get their info, and so you can then make an educated decision on if you want to call this person, email them, try to get a meeting with them. Obviously, however it works in your business model as the broker, you've got full autonomy to follow those leads, track those leads, and follow up with them. And that's probably one of the coolest things, I think, is just the whole, you see it, whether it's Trulia or Redfin or Zillow or like Airbnb, it's happening on all these other sites, and it's just not out there really on the commercial real estate marketplace.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few, we don't have, I mean, I'll leave it up to you if you want to call anybody out. I'm not going to call anybody out for you, but there's a few other players in the space. And I've used some other sites here and there, and I have, all the apps, and I've got all the sites, and I'm on all the email lists. Honestly, I'm like the cheapest email to acquire, but I'm the most expensive customer. Like, I'll give you my email all day long, but man, I will not give you a dime. You better, it's got to be such a good offer, except for, I will say, I can't be the only one. I have subscribed to like 7 different news services for $1 for the next 90 days. I've got a list. Well, it's on the other side of my whiteboard. I've got a list of like, here's all the news services to cancel in the next 2 weeks because they all got my dollar. But there's a lot of different, I think that's one of the frustrating experiences I've had. Like, I have one in the residential space that keeps serving me up ads for Chattanooga, and I stopped shopping Chattanooga almost 2 years ago. I didn't like what I was seeing. So, but it keeps sending me stuff for Chattanooga. So is this like some proprietary, or are you just leveraging some open source data that is able to, serve up basically smartly serve up properties? Or is it really just a very simple solution like, tags and categories on the back end?
Yeah, so a lot of it starts by, if you create a profile on Craxi, which is completely free to create. So for yourself, if you have one, or anyone else out there, completely free to create. But most of the time, whether you're in a 1031 exchange and you need to place capital, or you're shopping for a property because you're expanding your business, or you're looking for a lease, you're going to probably want to get those emails like you're saying. So you can go into Craxi and create a filter to see what's on the market right now, and then get a recurring email from us on a daily, weekly basis. So that's really how it all starts. But like you said, if you're shopping in Chattanooga and you have a profile created on Craxi, and we see that you're not now shopping in Chattanooga and you're clicking on properties in Chicago, we're going to start serving you up those properties in this greater Chicago area just based on what you're clicking on. So we've got a full in-house data tech team that's building some pretty cool stuff. And it's all just based around, like, what you're saying. Like, we want people to continue to come back, the whole marketplace effect.
Yeah.
And it's, I think a lot of it's just like talking to our broker friends in the community. That's really kind of been what we've been doing since day one. Like, what do you need? And feedback like that from you, Nate, as a shopper, is great for us too, because we definitely want you to see what you want to see and come back to the site. So that's a big portion of it.
Now, one of the going trends in all of prop tech really is really verticalizing, different services into your business. Is that the right word? Verticalizing?
I think so.
I think every other show I make up a word. So, but so basically, like, okay, so you've got the inventory, you've got the attention of the buyers. Great. You're making some pairs. Cool. You made some money on probably some advertising, like premium services of that listing or something like that. Or, okay, cool. But there's pretty good money in loan applications and brokering out loans or in selling leads to the money side. There's the insurance side. There's the appraisal side. There's inspections. There's 3D modeling. There's probably all kinds of stuff with zoning laws, legal, all these other services that your customers have to take advantage of anyway. Like the buyers need all those things. What's Craxi doing with the audience attention and all those other services? Are you guys in that business, or are you staying strictly, we're going to be the marketplace?
Yeah, that's a great question. So really, we were born on the whole marketplace side of things, and our our clients, if you look at it, kind of building the marketplace out, had to get the inventory there first in order to get the other side of the marketplace to come to get the flywheel effect.
Yeah, totally.
That's really like since day one, like the listening to our brokers, gathering feedback, creating business cases on why we think this product or this feature needs to be made, and then really implementing it and iterating off of that based on putting it out there and letting them use it. The marketplace side was where we saw, like, if we can really get this, if the brokerage community comes on board with this, then everybody else is going to kind of follow suit slowly, because the brokers really run the industry at the end of the day. They're the local knowledge, they're the local experts, boots on the ground, and they're driving everything. Data has been the next kind of natural progression for us to get into. We're obviously gathering a lot of data based on properties that are trading, properties that are leasing, and just kind of trends in the general industry. So that's kind of like bringing that all under one roof versus having it be in silos, for lack of a better term, having to go to this site for this site for this.
Right.
But long term, what you're saying, like definitely finance, lenders, that's something. I mean, those people are coming to our site day to day. Appraisers, another thing. Like, we've got a ton of people from the appraisal community coming to our site just to see what's on here. I definitely see a need to kind of bolt that on in some way, shape, or form. But we're definitely like keeping our heads down, if you will, and staying in our lane to make sure what we do, like first and foremost, is we're serving our our community, if you will, which is brokers, investors, and tenants first and foremost, and kind of expanding off of that as we see fit.
Yeah, I totally respect that. I mean, I'd rattled off a long list. If you try to do all of that, it's a lot. It's a lot of things. I mean, anybody can put links on a website and say we got a partnership with so and so, but that's not really, that's not really doing anything outside of just marketing, another service or something like that. So you're collecting all this data, then you got to know some of the hot spots, right? What are some of the cities that are blowing up?
You'd probably, so a lot of them wouldn't surprise you. The major MSAs, South Florida, Miami, Dallas, Chicago's a good one, New York, throughout California, you've got Los Angeles, where I'm sitting, San Diego, San Francisco, Seattle, obviously. A lot of spots too that we've been noticing now, more so. I don't want to call them like, secondary, tertiary type things, but
it's
Reno,
okay. Cities don't have feelings. So wait, you can call Reno secondary. Reno is secondary. Have you been to Reno?
My first time was actually on my birthday, so it was February 18th. That was one of the last trips I took before. We travel a lot to go meet the clients, and so yeah, I've been there. I've been to Tahoe before, but I've never been to Reno.
Yeah, my wife and I on our honeymoon drove right past Tahoe, and we're like, let's just go to Reno. And we went to one casino. It was terrible. We stopped at a bar. We had an order of wings. We bought 2 pizzas and a beer for like $12. Ate half of it, took the rest of it on the road, and kept on our road trip.
Oh man, that is funny.
Yeah,
that's a great story. That kind of sums it up. Yeah. But okay, it's a hot market. It's a hot market.
So Reno, probably Chattanooga comes up a little bit in those discussions.
Oh yeah, for sure. Chattanooga definitely. I mean, I'm primarily focused on the West Coast for my team.
Okay.
So Arizona is hot. A lot of.
So you're looking at Bend, Oregon, but probably not for the commercial.
Oh yeah. It is. You'd be surprised. There's a huge in Bend in particular, I haven't been there probably in like 6 months or so, but a
Same.
large part of the population is also in with the realtor community. So the local realtor associations and the
Yeah.
commercial associations
Got it.
are pretty friendly in that area. And we actually have an affinity partnership on a national basis with the National Association of Realtors,
Got
because
it.
a lot of smaller markets like that, the commercial firms are huge inside of that, and Bend is one of those areas. And
So let's talk
beautiful
about,
place too.
yeah, let's talk about Bend for a minute. For those who don't
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
Bend is one of the most beautiful. It honestly is. They have got
Oh,
300 days of sunshine a year. That might get cold in the winter, but you
mhm.
get 300 days of sunshine a year. All right, it's like craft
Yes.
beer capital of the world. You can go no further than a block and a half and see another pub that you never heard of. Um, it's all about the outdoors. You know, you can sit in the river in a tube. Everyone goes down the
Oh,
lazy
yeah.
river. They do river surfing. It's crazy. But what I want to talk about is like, okay, so we got a market like Bend, Oregon. It's got a lot of some vacationers, travels, food, all that. But what do you look for on the commercial side that says, hey, this is a hot market? What are some of the indicators that Craxi is able to pick up of, hey, this is an area we should be focusing on?
Yeah, so from our angle, like obviously when you've got, so Boise, Idaho is another one that comes to mind. Like when I think about that, Reno's the same thing. Same with Bend.
Yeah.
You just have like large influxes of people moving there. So you've got population increases year over year. Some of them like very, very steady. That's one thing. You have building, like a lot of building is going on there.
Mm-hmm.
A ton of stuff, and that's not just commercial, like residential, obviously too. You've got a ton of residential building going on there. And then outside of that, like when we're going to all these markets anyway, as it fits, or as it sits today, as we're every major market and sub market and whatnot we're
Right.
going to, and just kind of like the general vibe in the community. If we have a meeting with 3, 4, 5 different brokerage firms in the same meeting, and they are all looking for another option outside of just the local realtor association or just the local systems that they may have been using for many years, that's like, okay, well, let us present our solution and see what we can do. And then when we start doing that, we pick up data on the back end, and we can see like key like KPIs that we have in a market like this.
Yeah.
And then we'll look at other markets that are similar population sizes. And then we can see, okay, let's try to do the same thing we just did here. Like Fresno and Bakersfield, California, another 2 markets that I would say that are kind of similar to that, where we've seen that happen, like a shift that's occurring where the brokers are looking to come on board and kind of mass influx into Craxi.
Got it. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And obviously, if you have a lot of building, even residential, I mean, those people have to work somewhere, and typically
Yep.
they're, cities in themselves are somewhat, they're that a two-sided marketplace concept too. Totally love it. So I want to get to a little bit of like future casting here a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just let's take out the crystal ball. A lot of
Yeah,
things are changing really fast, right? So I don't want to date this episode, but we're in the middle of this shelter in place everywhere. The whole full world is kind of shut down. We're working in our apartments. Office space is totally in limbo. People are questioning, do we even need, so much commercial office space? Which then it's gonna challenge everything. Do we even need all the doctor spaces that we have? Can we just do regular doctor visits from home? And can we just order everything online? And can we just, there's a lot of questions, I think, of what will the changes that we're experiencing right now by force of scenario is going to carry over. So what are you guys seeing as far as like the future commercial real estate and where it heads? And we don't have to stick with just office space. This is an easy one to pick on. I like warehousing. So if you want to go down that route, like that's a topic I love to go down. But what are you guys seeing internally and talking about like the future of commercial real estate and your role in that?
Yeah, that's a nice rabbit hole to go down. You can take that a lot of different ways. I think like it was kind of like this webinar thing we were talking about before. Like we hosted a webinar a couple of weeks ago that a broker friend of mine out here in California, he's just big on the whole YouTube and Zoom and things like that. And it just blew my mind because we've been using Zoom, and we've been, we're traveling sales reps on my team and just in general with a big engineering team, people are working from wherever. You don't always have to be in the office 24/7. So we're
Totally.
used to that already. And we hop on the Zoom, and like the first thing we did was show people how to do the virtual background, so you don't have to show your messy closet or anything like that. And people's minds were blown. Those were like the first 5 questions that came through. Can you show me how to do that again? Yeah, and and that right there was like, wow, like this industry really does need to move forward with different tech things, because a lot of it you just don't have to do that yet. And now that you have to do that, it's forcing people to change. And I think it's definitely necessary just to have like videos up on your listings, whether it's a lease space or an investment property, so that people can see it online, or you can have all that happening online. To the office space side of things, a friend of mine is actually an attorney in Chicago, and I was asking him, like, there's, I understand like your major attorneys, your accountants, your finance folks, your architecture firms, your big, real estate firms. Those spaces, those companies need a presence in like the central business district of every major, downtown they're operating in.
Right.
But do they need 6 or 7 floors for all their people? Probably not.
Nope.
I also, yeah, exactly. And I also think like, when we get out of this thing, it's probably going to be a lot of like, okay, like half of the company works today through Wednesday in the office. The other half works Thursday, Friday in the office. And that's going to start showing that you don't need these, massive square footage leases for everybody. Where that goes though, yeah, I don't know. That's a great question. But like the warehousing side of things, I mean, that's going to get huge too, just because in Southern California, obviously we've got, massive distribution hubs everywhere. I just think Amazon and stuff like that. And
well, what's so interesting is like
to grow.
with the warehousing side, like what we're seeing now is, man, if we don't have manufacturing in the US,
yeah,
holy crap, we could shut down. So I went to, it was like a day or so after the shelter in place in Chicago. I stopped at a bike shop because I had to get my BMX repaired. But I was out riding and I jacked up my back wheel and I basically couldn't go anywhere. So I found the shop, walked in, and I asked her, I said, has it been dead in here? I was the only one in there. It was also 30 degrees out. So I guess not everyone goes riding their bike 30 degrees out. And I said to her, and she goes, no, it's been busy. She said, a lot of people are afraid to take the trains and the bus, and they don't want to take that to and from work. So actually it was before the shelter in place, because we had already gone work from home. It was before they mandated it. And she said, we're selling bikes. And she says, thank goodness we financed a whole bunch of bikes when the tariffs were lifted. Wow. We have inventory. She goes, those who don't have inventory right now are kicking themselves because they're,
I bet, because they could sell it.
Yeah. But I mean, from that perspective, if she was buying American-made bikes, she'd be, and there's a company called Rad Bikes. They do the electric bikes, which now that we're talking about it, you'll see the ads on Instagram. But but they're VC funded and they ship from China. Well, they're operating at a significant burn. Well, that's a problem. If you're operating at a burn and your supply is coming from China and supply has been cut off,
that's a big issue.
Holy crap, man! Now I can't even imagine. Like you're only hoping that. Now you're like, shut the ads off. Just maybe let the organic sales trickle out. Our CAC is going to look good for the next quarter. This is kind of what it's going to look like. But I think you're right. There's going to be a lot of interesting outcomes from all this of how we shift and how we reevaluate property moving forward. Because it probably still, even though I think that we all believe that we're working property at its best and highest use, I think we're far from that. I think we're still very far from that. And we've got a lot of ground to cover to really get there. All right, I want to shift gears here a little bit. I always like to talk about funding. Now, I know you said you've gotten a chance to participate in some of the funding. What's been some of your experience in raising venture funds at Craxi? Of course, I do my due diligence by using Crunchbase. And Crunchbase says, so I'm not saying anything that's not on the internet, 54 million is what you guys have raised. Is that accurate?
Yeah, just under 60 million. Mm-hmm.
Okay, small amount of money. Just kidding, man. That's impressive. No, it's a hefty amount. So obviously, you guys, little later stage Series B company. you've got quite a bit of backing. What's the plan moving forward? Are you guys still going in that route, looking at taking more, or you think that you're just going to keep building on what you've got?
Yeah, that's a great question. Kind of, looking back in that crystal ball, we recently, the end of January, closed our Series B, which is about 29 million, so a little under 30 million. So, it's not on our near-term horizon, just because that just occurred. But
It's great
definitely
timing
to continue expansion. Yeah, great timing for sure. So we'll kind of see, like, we are in a good position from the revenue sources we have. And as we were talking about when we first opened, like with the auction arm opening up as well,
Yeah.
I don't think it could have been a better time to do that. Just with, kind of how I don't think it's going to be as bad as the 2008, 2010 times. But we'll kind of see from that angle. And yeah, I definitely think, Series C down the road for sure to continue expansion. Our whole goal is to continue just building out the whole marketplace side of things, the sales side, the for lease side, the auction business as well, because it's still pretty new. And I definitely could see some of that down the road further. But yeah, we just recently closed that, so it was more than good timing, that's for sure.
I always like to think back to I listened to an episode of Pete Flint, founder of Trulia, and I don't remember whose podcast it was he was on, but I mean, it's just one that's like one of the most memorable for me. And when I listen back to it, because it's just packed full of lessons, and he talks about, we just raised all this money and then the market crashed. Like, what the hell do you do? Like, do you give your money back to the investors? Like, I'm sorry, this isn't going to work. Like, do you just hand it right back? Like, call them up. Look, I know you're going to write me an email. Just have it back. Or do you persist through it? Do you see that as the opportunity to strike when macro patterns will change? And, as an example, and then I'll kick it back over to you to see, but like an example, like I've been looking at the Google search trends, and last night, one of them I came across is both hair clippers and how to cut hair are in breakout. The word amid is the word amid and contactless are in breakout. This is very relevant to our audience. Virtual showings or virtual tour. That's what it is. Virtual tour.
Got to be huge.
Is totally breakout. People are searching for virtual tours. I mean, where do you take that? So what do you, back to that crystal ball, and then we'll move into the show segments here. What are like one or two patterns you think will come out of all this that Craxi will really be able to capitalize on?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because, kind of initially when the lockdown was set in place, we saw activity dip a little bit on the site from both buyers and brokers. And I think now that everyone's used to working at home now, right? It probably took like a couple days to figure out what you're doing. And especially with, most of these brokerage communities or investment communities, individuals are working from the office every day. They don't work from home, or they're on the road. So once they were set up in their home offices, we've seen our traffic, spiking like pretty heavily since then.
Wow.
In particular, like certain property types, your medical office, your grocery anchored retail, your different types of retail from the like the walk-in clinic, and the like kidney dialysis centers, drugstores, liquor stores, obviously from the retail side as well, but apartments too, industrial warehouse apartments, all that's up. And I think a big portion of it, though, it goes back to like me, like thinking even before, not looking in the crystal ball, but thinking back, like people in this industry just they don't want to change, right? No one wants to change, period. But definitely in this industry, it's tough to get people to change. And I feel like of this
too bad.
Now there's no choice. Like you have to go virtual with your business. And, whether that means just buying a Zoom account so you can meet with your clients face to face, or that means going out to the property and filming it on your iPhone and putting it on your listing page so people can come on and see it. That's the one cool thing about CREXi, is that you can do a lot of that stuff on our site. Not, And so yeah, that's why I see a lot of that going strictly digital, just because it's there. So why not use it?
Yeah.
And when the first people to embrace it are going to be the ones that are going to be the see the benefits the earliest from it.
Yeah, yeah. The Evernote is a great example of companies. If you just,
Yeah.
for those who don't know, Evernote really hit growth spurts by being the first ones on ad platforms and marketplaces, and anywhere they could get an upper hand advantage. They were one of the first on the iOS store, one of the first in the Facebook marketplace. They were very aggressive that with their growth teams, and I think right now people should be paying attention to that. Like, this is an opportunity. This isn't time to get scared and nervous unless your business doesn't work. In that case, I mean,
Yeah.
for all all intents and purposes, run down the hallway yelling fire. But this
Yeah.
is a really great opportunity to dig the heels in and make it happen. Well, we're going to keep going here. I want to get to one of my favorite segments of the show. I don't think anybody warned you about this, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I call this For the Future. For the Future is where I get to ask each guest who comes on the show to give their best predictions based on the following 4 questions. Matt, you ready to play?
Let's go.
All right, let's do this. Question number 1. What does Craxi look like 1 year from now?
Craxi 1 year from now. Oh man, that's a tough question. Well, I think 1 year from now, our platform itself, it started on the for sale side. So we didn't have a leasing side when we first launched, and we've had leasing now for about 2 years. I see the leasing side like fully expanding and being as powerful as our for sale platform 12 months from now. And then we talked about the auction business already. I think that side of the business is going to grow to leaps and bounds from what we've got it today, because it's still it's almost like a startup inside a startup today. And so that both of those sides of the business are going to be really big. And then the whole data component as well. So data has been a huge portion of ours. I mean, different things, people mean different things when they say data, but we recently launched our sales comparables platform. So I see that really, hitting stride by that time too.
This is totally breaking form, but it's my show and I get to do that. I didn't ask you about this, but you said it, talking about leasing. I started to pick up that maybe there was a bit of a trend in leasebacks, companies selling off their real estate assets and then leasing directly from the new owner. Are you guys also seeing that on your platform? And do you think that will continue?
Whether that continues, that's a good question. So yeah, we've definitely seen that, like the sale leaseback space, especially. Well, so it's the single tenant triple net. Don't have to necessarily be single tenant triple net, but yeah, like that's huge on our site. That's probably our that and apartments are probably our 2 biggest property types on there. We've seen a ton of it. Yeah, we work with all the top triple net, or I shouldn't just say that, but retail brokers nationally. And that business has been, since day one, since we launched, has been huge.
Yeah.
And it probably, I would see that maybe continuing that way. It's a good question though.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, when I'm older and I know something, I'll jump into the commercial space full time. All right. Question number 2, what will prop tech as an industry look like a year from now?
Prop tech as an industry look like.
I told you. We didn't warn you about this.
I think the cool thing about it all is just the venture community embracing it, because you just see, like, year after year since we've launched, there's been so much more capital launching into this space. So I definitely see that continuing. And I think, especially with what's going on now, just with the shelter in place and whatnot, I think there's going to be a lot of new niches. I don't know what those look like yet, but I think there's going to be a lot of new business ideas coming out of this, just from forcing people to take their business digital now, and in the commercial real estate space in particular. I think we're going to see a lot of new cool stuff launch out, and really kind of continue that trend of upward and onward, and just trying to get things out of the dark ages, if you will.
Yeah. All right, question number 3. What's one industry trend you think will continue, but you wish would go away? This segment's also known as What Grinds My Gears.
What grinds my gears? Industry trend that would continue that I wish would go away. This is a tough one. I wish I would have been warned on these, but I know you can't do that.
No, yeah, knee-jerk reaction.
Knee-jerk reaction. maybe in some way, shape, or form, like all the different crowdfunding sites.
Okay. That's okay. You
And
don't have
and
to
I think
apologize for that.
yeah, and I think they've consolidated a little bit as well. But there was definitely a lot of them out there, and yeah, let's kind of see where that goes.
All right. And the final one here for the future. What's one thing you believe will dramatically change or fade away as a result of tech advances?
Ooh, change or fade away. I mean, I think we're going to see a lot more of the pen and paper kind of go away. Like a lot of stuff moving more digitally, especially now with what's going on. Like it's no more where you have to do stuff face to face. I think a lot of that's going to move digital, and it's different stuff, and not just like Craxi. Like we're here to solve a problem with bringing whether it's your due diligence or your listing or your marketing or your tracking online, but just other parts of the industry in general, just not needing to be that old school mentality of the Rolodex on my desk is how I'm going to sell my properties. I think those mentalities are going to kind of go away, especially in the next 12 months with just the shifting tides of what's happening.
Yeah. Love it. Well, these last week, we're going to move on to our questions more about you, Matt. This is so our listeners get to know you a bit better. First one is, what are you reading?
Right now, I am actually reading. I'm reading A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking.
Oh, okay. That sounds like a hard book to read. He's the really smart science guy, right?
Yes, correct. The first 10 pages are easy. There's a possibility I don't finish it, but the backup book is The Obstacle is the Way. I'm trying to navigate between a book that is business related, and then a book that is not. So and how I'm doing it too, just what's going on right now. I'm also reading Sales Leadership, but I'm listening to that book. So that it's really good.
Sales Leadership.
Far.
Who's that?
Sales Leadership. Let me see who that's by. It's really good so far.
I don't think I've read that one.
This is my Audible. I'd highly recommend it.
That's why it's confusing. Sales books. See, I don't work as in sales, but we can talk sales books all day long, and I don't think I've read that one.
Keith Rosen,
huh?
Yeah, but we'll see. I try to do two at once, so we'll see how far I get with the Brief History of Time. I don't know how long I'll get on that. That'll probably go 50 pages, but the Sales Leadership I'd highly recommend.
All right. What's your favorite sales book?
What about yourself?
Okay.
What are you reading right now?
So I've got this book I've been listening to a little bit. I always forget the title of it. And it's been on this is my running book. But my running has gone on pause because of a knee injury. It's called Broke USA: From Pawn Shops to Poverty, Inc. How the Working Poor Became Big Business. Sounds terrible, but it's actually fascinating about a lot of the underhanded and crooked business that took place in the lending industry, from payday loans to cash checks now to I want my money and I want it now. Or when the banks say no, Champion says yes. I mean, I was a kid when that commercial ran, and I know the tagline. And I had no idea that those lenders, and I'll say it right now, and I don't care if anybody has an issue with it, but those lenders were born out of the fact that the federal government said, hey, you banks, you should probably be fair to everybody. You can't just give loans to white people and no loans to anybody else. And so what they did was they jacked up the fees, went intentionally into lower income neighborhoods, like one I grew up in, and they ran these commercials and ads and said, we'll give you loans. And what they did is they robbed millions, maybe, I don't know if it was millions, but strategic in Atlanta was hit specifically very hard. They robbed people out of their equity on schemes of, I saw you had a downspout was broken. I could get that fixed, and it wouldn't cost you any money today. It would just be $50 a month for a few months. But they would wrap it up into these refi loans, and then they would sell it to the bank on a backdoor deal with high interest fees. And then they would just wrap it up into a new loan and wrap it up into a new loan, all kinds of really shady stuff. So
that sounds good. I would be interested in that.
The other one is actually just on the show here, Intentional Integrity by Robert Chestnut. He's the Chief Ethics Officer of Airbnb. So I just started paging through that. But I have to give a shout out to one of my favorite sales authors of all time, Jeb Blunt, Fanatical Prospecting. Even though I'm no longer smiling and dialing it for making my money, there's no better book in sales for if you just need that football coach in the back of your head to say, stop being a pansy, pick up the phone and make the call. That's the book.
I've heard that's really good. I haven't read it yet, but my director's been telling me to read that.
Oh yeah, all day long. I mean, the only person who's going to yell at you more is Glenn Ross. But all right, question number 2: who are you learning from?
Who am I learning? Great question. So I'm learning from, and internally at the company at Craxi, a lot of the people like above me at Craxi. So Paul Cohen, Doug Shankman, the 2 guys that are running our sales team, learn a lot from these guys every day, just on how to lead, how to manage. Mike, our CEO, and Eli, who's our chief operating officer, those guys as well, just kind of, day in, day out. I called them for advice on the podcast last night. So I was like, yeah, hey, any advice you guys got? And,
they were just like, don't say anything stupid.
Yeah. That's, if you knew Eli's humor, that's exactly what he said. For sure. My former actually manager at my last company too, he now works for us in our auction division, Bob Drury. So it's a lot of good knowledge I can learn just from walking around the office when we're allowed to be at the office. And actually I'm rereading Psycho-Cybernetics right now, which is a really old school book. But that I always pick up something new. I try to read it once a year. So we'll see if I want to actually dig into that when the Audible is over. I'm going to get back into that. But yeah, just kind of like piecing through some of the oldies but goodies too.
There it is. All right, the last one here. What inspires you?
Ooh, what inspires me? I mean, I like helping people. I like trying to lead and coach people. So I've been, a salesperson at Craxi for a long time, and I've been a director of a sales team now for a better portion of like 16 months, and I really like it. So I feel like it's almost like teaching in a way. I think that's maybe what I was meant to be, but I got into sales instead. But I really just like helping people, I think, is what it comes down to. And then when I look at like what we're doing on a day-to-day basis at Craxi, like just getting 1% better every day, if we can do that by the end of the year, we're 350% better, and it's just trying to continue moving the industry in that direction and taking it out of the dark ages, if you will.
I love it. Yeah, that's solid. And the 1% every day, that's hard to keep that mindset, especially if you're in the venture-backed business world, because it's, I got to double it, got to double it. But what I think everyone has learned, a lesson, Owen, is that just a little bit better than the day before every day exponentially just compounds, and I mean, you just can't beat it. So, Matt, this has been a lot of fun. I think you're a pro at this. Looks like you're going to be hitting up the podcast circuit. Just get on all the prop tech shows that are out there. There's a ton of them.
Will do.
It's littered.
It gets easier.
Yeah, the industry is just littered with prop tech shows, man. Before we head out, though, for those who want to get in touch with you or learn more about Craxi, where do they go? How do they do that?
Yeah, Crexi, CREXi.com. That's the easiest way to find us. And I'm just Matt at Crexi, so MATT at Crexi, CREXi.com, and would love to connect with anybody that wants to chat further, either about the industry or just chit-chatting in general about life.
There it is. Boom. Well, there you have it, folks. Matt, appreciate you being on the show, sharing about Craxi. I've known about you guys for a long time, so very exciting for me to have someone from the company on the show and be able to talk to about what you guys are doing, what you're building, seeing where you're headed. And until then, let's keep in touch. Send me your thoughts when you finally read Fanatical Prospecting.
Will do, for sure.
And we'll talk later.
Awesome, man. Thanks a lot. This is a lot of fun.
Well, that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening to the TechNest podcast. Hey, don't forget you can get on the email list so you never miss an upcoming episode. That's technest.io. That's TECHNEST.io. Get on the email list. Go to the App Store, whether you found us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, wherever you found us. Leave us a 5-star review and share it with your friends. And if you've got a guest or someone that you'd like to recommend, or if you think that you'd be a great guest on the show, hey, send me an email, nate@realteampanda.com. That's nate@realteampanda.com. See you guys later.